Welcome to the Writer Reads Flash Fiction from another 365 days of flash fiction. Month 4, Day 28. Odo and a Pack. Buffalo girls go round the Odo! Honestly, how in the hell was I supposed to be able to concentrate with that racket going on? It wasn't that Odo was singing off key, again, or that he was doing it at the top of his lungs. It was all the clucking and quacking that went along with it. Something slammed into the wall, rattling the pots in their cupboard. What in the name of the gods was going on out there? "Two, Buffalo!" Odo continued, but he wasn't singing any more. Now he sounded more like he was shouting, "Outside!" Well, fine. I grabbed the rifle from the rack and headed up to the second floor. When I got there, I saw why he was shouting. It was hard to hold a tune when you were throwing folk bodily off the porch. I slid out the back and took a quick trot around the perimeter. Odo was well and truly outnumbered. It would have been a mistake to go out the front way. I stuck my head around a tree and fired 2 shots into the cluster of raiders, thumbing the emergency beacon as I did so. No way were Odo and I going to take these guys on our own. We took half a dozen down between us, and then someone snapped Odo's knee and someone else got the bright idea of shooting back at me. They had us hauled up through the kitchen table in 20 seconds flat. Sign it! The table set down in front of us contained the deeds to our entire life. Odo looked at me, and I looked back. It was everything, and neither one of us wanted to be the first to give it up. The question was, how long could we hold out before the dagger blade running down the side of my neck was no surprise, and nor was the hand at my throat. "It's not worth your lives," whispered in my ear, and foul breath made me draw away in disgust. Odo shifted in his seat, and I flashed him a look. "Don't you dare," I thought, glaring at him. But he was going to cave. I could see it, and the raiders did too. They pressed harder, pulling me out of my chair and hurling me into a wall. When they came after me, their intention was clear. "No!" Odo was out of his seat as I scrambled to my feet and prepared to take them on. He, at least, thought bare hands against knives was a bad idea. "Don't even!" I snarled, as much to him as to them, and 3 surged forward. Not good odds. I ducked under the first and threw them over my shoulder, kicked out at the second, and twisted out of the grasp of the third. I lost my feet to a leg sweep seconds later and hit the floor just as the cabin door blew in and more raiders arrived. Odo dived under the table, and I got buried under the guy that lost his head to a blaster burst. Not raiders, then, I thought, pushing the corpse aside. A second one landed on me before I could regain my feet. "Stay down!" That order came in familiar tones, and my heart sank. We wouldn't lose the title, but to have Odyssey answer our beacon? That had to be the worst of all luck. Odo groaned, and I sympathized. We'd tried to retire, and there were always conditions attached. I was tempted to push the latest body aside and make a dash for the door, but the fight was already over, and I knew it was too late. The petite blonde, standing in the middle of the carnage, looked far too happy with herself, as one of her squad pulled the body off me and helped me to my feet. "Delight," I said, as Odo came to join me. From the look on his face, he was as happy to see her as I was. She gave us a happy grin. "Look at you two," she crowed. "And I thought the frontiers were famed for their hospitality." "If I'd known you were coming," I snarled, wiping blood from my face, "I'd have baked you a cake." I was still breathing hard. "Pfft, no, you wouldn't," Delight retorted. "You'd have run just as far and fast as your little legs could have carried you." I didn't bother arguing, leaning into Odo when he draped an arm around my shoulders. Neither of us wanted to be there, but we didn't know what else to do. Delight gave us another searching look, then tilted her head, her eyes taking on a faraway look. "Bring them in." I glanced up at Odo and saw the same question on his face. "Bring who in?" 4 children walked through the door. They scanned the kitchen, noting the bodies without comment, and then each vanished through a different door before returning to converge on the stairs. To my surprise, Delight waited, as if their opinion meant anything. "Well?" she asked when they returned. I stared. Apparently it did. One of the girls stepped forward, looking Delight up and down before giving her a swift nod. The agent swept a hand toward Odo and I. "Then it's up to them," she said. You can stay if they'll have you. Again I looked at Odo, but he was no help. He looked just as lost as I felt. If we'd have them, all four of them. The girl came to a halt before us, the question in her eyes. When I didn't answer, she finally spoke. Can we? She asked, adding as I stared. Can we stay? Odo's arm tightened around my shoulders, and he surprised me by stooping down and pushing his face against hers. As pack? He growled, and the penny dropped. I glanced at the others and saw what I'd missed, the tilt of their heads, the bright-eyed stares. When I looked back at Delight, the smirk was gone. She gave me a sour look. You're the best qualified, she told me, just as the girl agreed. As your pack, as your mate's pack, she replied, gesturing to the two boys and the younger girl standing with them. They ducked their heads almost submissively. Your pack and mine as one, the girl declared, watching as Odo straightened and looked again at me. She shifted forward, taking one of our hands in each of her own. Please? The whine that followed only confirmed what she was, and I sighed. As pack, yours and mine, I agreed. As one. Delight nodded, then headed for the door. I'll be back with the paperwork and more supplies, she told us, looking around the cabin and wrinkling her nose. And a clean-up crew. You are woefully underprepared. I glared at her, not bothering to tell her that with the number of raiders we'd dealt with in the last 2 months, that wasn't a surprise. My guess was that Odyssey had come to deal with them, and that we'd just been an added bonus. Or that Delight had been tasked with finding us and making the drop, and the raiders were an added bonus for her. Either way worked for me. Odo and I had been living on the edge for over a year now. Odyssey securing the planet, hell, anyone securing the planet, was a welcome change. The kids? I leaned on Odo again. We delayed our own family until we could secure them a home. The fact that security came with older siblings wasn't going to be a problem.